So very recently, I watched The Joker. Now, I know I'm very late to this film. It came out 2019, big success, big movie, big numbers actually with the amount of viewers. And it seemed to become a quite a controversial movie. And the reason they gave for this was white supremacy or something. But honestly, some of the deeper concerns that they really care about and concerned about, the people that are actually like in power, are going to be partially revealed in this video. So while watching The Joker, I became very. It gave me a very good example for the type of thing I've attempted to make a video on, and I've been wanting to attempt to make a video on, sorry. And I guess that is me doing that now, which is on the concept of anarcho-tyranny and how that can kill a nation. So anarcho-tyranny is this concept to describe different political government systems that was originally created by Samuel Francis and was used specifically to describe America and the way that a nation would, because a nation always has an existent hierarchy, and because if a hierarchy didn't exist, a hierarchy would form. A nation would maintain a hierarchy and will create infrastructure to maintain that hierarchy so no one else can get in that power. But while they're in that power, they never enforce the laws and the rules that comes with being in that power. So essentially, they take part of the job, but never do the job, so that the job that is supposed to happen, which is keeping a successful country that sticks together, never happens. In essence, many laws specific to civilians and crimes from specific people of the group that you like are dictated to only certain people have to follow them in order to create divisions that can then destroy the nation. In our nation, as we see it today, it is roughly minority groups that get this treatment. That if you're a Democrat or just a minority group, mostly just a minority group, you can get away with lots of crimes, lots of them, lots of them. You can get freed from jail if it's for the right cause. There was a lot of people, hundreds, thousands, maybe even like 10,000 people that were, maybe even higher probably, that were freed from jail during the summer of 2020 for rioting and destroying the nation. And this is because, according to the people in power, that is not a crime against them because it is exactly what they want. They want us to destroy the nation. It's true. Why do you think they hate nationalists? Why do you think they hate this flag? They hate our country, our values, our founders, our flag, our anthem, our people. That's the important one that always gets neglected. Our Christian morality and founding. And they hate the American way of life. And they hate nations in general. So this comes as a concept from the idea of hating nations. It's sort of a quality of the weak to say. I know a lot of weak people, and these weak people, instead of being able to blame themselves to get better, they always go to blame that which is like deciding things. So like the government, or like this, like let's talk about school. Someone that's very bad at schoolwork. A lot of times, rather than bettering themselves, people that are weak-minded will just blame the system and blame the school or blame a teacher or something. And this is because they were never meant to be in that competing force in the first place because they just aren't as competent. And our positions of power, nature is supposed to dictate that the most competent people will get in power if unchecked. So let's say we have basketball, right? In basketball, if nothing is changed, if no system changes who gets into power, then naturally the most athletic and skillful player will get in. But as we see in reality, a lot of it has to do with like politics and stuff when it comes to basketball. But that's not even the best example. There's a lot of examples of this. And a main example right now is our nation and its representatives. Those guys, the incompetent people. Our base too often likes to talk about how it's the power structure causing this. It's not the power structure. It's bad people in the power structure that were never supposed to be there. We cannot sit here and act like it's the power structure as if the presidency of Theodore Roosevelt, one of our greatest presidents ever, and Barack Obama or George Bush are compatible at all, because they're not. And all three of those governments, frankly, had an equal amount of power distribution, but they all had three different outputs, and that's because of it being about competence. The system in itself is like a weapon. It's like a gun. Some people are just better at shooting guns than others. And when that duel happens, a person that shoots the gun better will win. This is in essence isn't this essence in essence the principle of the free market that we always like to love? Isn't that the essence of it, which is that the best product will win? Well, doesn't it dictate that competence is the value? Here's what happens though, and here's what we neglect as conservatives, is that as we treat everything as individualistic and we think to ourselves that each person can do anything as long as they believe in themselves, this idealistic, crony capitalist, you can say, I just call it capitalist, frankly, system that we are in, where it's like if you could just try hard enough, you can get in power. It creates conflict and belief in people who aren't able to achieve that by hating that of which they believe to be stopping themselves. Because they're told it can't be them, that there's nothing wrong with you. They're told that nature isn't real. They're told they have to be a liberalized individual, liberalized from nature, hierarchy, standards, morals, values, work, God. Liberalized from all of that. If you're just an individual, you can do perfectly fine, right? No. No. It's about competence. It really is. Not everyone's going to have the same output. That's because we're different. And it's true. And how this dictates politics is that if an incompetent person is in power, that nation will be unsuccessful. That job will be unsuccessful. If you hire a bad worker, you're not going to blame the system of working. Like, you're not going to be like, oh, it's not the worker's fault. It's the system. It's because of how their job works. It has to be bad, right? No, it's because they're a bad worker. It's because they're a bad worker. If you had a really good worker there, often, many times, it'd go great. But here's the situation we're living in, and it's the anarcho-tyranny position. It's a position that you lie to the society that everything is the fault of systems and power structure stopping you as the individual, and it's never your fault because you can do anything. And when they don't do anything, you know what happens? You know what happens? The people revolt. That's what happens. Look at summer 2020, for example. African Americans, for years, for a long time, have been being told, nothing's ever your fault. It's all the system. It's all the white man. This plays off of using the natural discomfort that minority groups have in a majority country because race is a tribalistic character, such as other characteristics. Given that, if you put them in that system, it's very easy to then exploit the things that exist already and the differentiations that exist already to then placate towards your narrative. It's very easy. Get them to fear the majority person because they can point to them as like the consistent factor or whatever, such as like the job, and never take self-responsibility. Then you can get really angry, unhealthy, mentally ill. That's what liberals are. So many people misunderstand how hierarchy works because we truly are living in an existence where you have one side, that's the communist, and the other side, that is the people who haven't quite gone to communism yet, but are approaching the roots of communism. In essence, you have like the communist and the classical liberal or whatever. That's what we have. The communist and the person that's about to get to communism but hasn't quite gotten there yet. That's where we're at. It's true. And some people misunderstand what communism is. They think it's just about government centralizes and everything goes bad because government's bad and you can't restrict individual behavior. That's bad. And when power grows big, everything goes bad. It's not what that's about. Marxism, and Marx was very big about this. Marxism is an opposition to hierarchy because it is a belief that the people that are at the bottom are supposed to be at the top, and the only means to really achieve that is to use existent power to then facilitate equal terms. In essence, to oppress the people that are supposed to be higher up by taking their resources and giving it towards people that naturally are lower on hierarchies to then equal everyone out, and then after that the hierarchy is supposed to get rid of, which is an impossible phenomenon because the hierarchy naturally happened for it in the first place, and you cannot subvert nature, and that's why communism fails. That's why it goes to shit. That's why it goes crazy, because it's ruled by incompetence, not because it's big government or whatever, because it's ruled by incompetence. And that's what anarcho-tyranny is in essence. You will have a government that is big in the sense that it has a lot of ability to maintain itself, but it does not do its job. It does not enact big legislation, except against the enemies, except against people that are naturally supposed to be at the height or in the middle of hierarchies. Those people are oppressed. But the people that are lower, that they can facilitate the hate systems because they hate competitiveness, because they want to feel good eventually, because they're insecure about their place, and because they likely are ugly, mentally ill, lacking of God. Because just because you're lower class doesn't mean you're a communist. Because if you have God, you aren't going to try and subvert nature. But if you don't have God, and you're placed in a system situation like that, watch what happens. Watch what happens. Because if you don't have God, you don't have anything to believe in. What do you have except to want to live on your own? What purpose is there for community, for existence, for what is natural, what is good? What's the point of that? All that matters is whether you're having fun, right? All that matters is what I feel is good. That's the essence of liberalism. It's because it feels good, I have to do it. That's the essence of liberalism. And the essence of anarcho-tyranny is the government will facilitate the people at the lower class. They will facilitate their crimes by allowing it to happen and not doing anything about it, and sometimes even aiding them. So they'll have a very anarchic system in the amount of chaos that will happen and the lack of laws they're enforcing on them, but they'll be tyrannical within how they maintain their power and how they maintain this schism by being oppressive and tyrannical against the people of opposition. And this can destroy nations whenever the people that are naturally higher are often going to be the people that are going to thank the system. Of course it is. Why would I hate the country if the country served me well, right? And if you're lower class, you can think the country serves you well. Not if you're not, without God again. And what we approach in this in this scenario that's happening right now is that people who naturally just can't blame anything except competition. These people want to facilitate equality, total egalitarianism, in the essence of anarcho-tyranny. In essence, we have to create an anarchic society, a society without institutions, but to do that, we have to use government to prevent people that would naturally be in the spot of government from getting into government. In essence, the size of the government never really changes. The society just gets destroyed. The nation dies. That's what's happening here. And what we learned more specifically from the Joker, how this comes back to the Joker. Man, Carter, you went on a long rant. How does this come back to the Joker? It comes back to the Joker because if you treat people bad enough and they're also in a mass, if you treat people poor enough and they're also in a mass, and that's a godless society, and they are like a mass enough group to where they have like the institutional power to wield it, there was enough people that felt oppressed to fight the system in the Joker. If you have that many people, geez, that's going to destroy society, isn't it? You see what's happening at the end of Joker, all the burning stuff? And how Joker appeals to everyone is, in essence, there's no hero in Joker. That's how it appeals to people. It accepts the brutal nature of life without Christ, and it accepts how brutal humanity can be. It accepts that sometimes people are mistreated in a godless society, and in essence, they will then mistreat you. It accepts that if we have no humility, if we have no God, nothing to live by, it's all just about whether you feel good or your economics. If we live by that system, what we'll have is total rebellion, anarchy, and that's what happens in a liberalized individualist society. So how this applies to anarcho-tyranny is the less competent the people at the top are, the less competent they are, which usually lower competent people getting at the top only happens from means of facilitating your own infrastructure. It doesn't usually happen naturally, because naturally people that are most competent are going to get there. But when that happens in that scenario, you can really destroy things. That's what's happening here, is it not? Is it not what's happening? At least in the Joker, though, the institutions at least tried to stop the Joker. The police force at least tried to stop, right? They don't do that in our system. Not unless you oppose them. But if you work for the same mission, which is destroying the nation, as transnational corporations that want nations to not exist because they come from Frankfurt School of Economics that wants to facilitate just more and more money and prevent Hitler or whatever by bringing globalism in, getting rid of central values, central hierarchy, central systems, in essence, central culture, central values, morals, central religion. If you can destroy all those things, you'll destroy the nation. Without nation, who is to check the globalist powers? Who is to check corporations? Because hierarchy is always going to exist, because it's the natural state. So if they can destroy all existing hierarchies, they become the hierarchy. If the Joker destroys all hierarchy, if they completely destroy the police or whatever, as they did, they became, in essence, the militant class. If Black Lives Matter can destroy police, they can become the new rulers of the nation. And it's especially easy to do that when you have a police force who is ruled by people that are sentimental towards the transnational corporations that hate us, that work for them, that work for the same elites with the same goal, because that the same people in the anarcho-tyranny system that maintain their power and swampness within the system to maintain the fact that to maintain competent people never rising for the benefit of lobbying money that goes to them from people that benefit from the chaos that endures. In essence, that's what happens. Because to extrapolate back to the Joker again, us conservatives, we aren't the elites that get shot, really. Because at least they have at least some sort of control. Us conservatives don't. Not really. Not really. We don't really have any sort of control. We aren't the Joker. They have a lot of control. They're not very godly. But what you can extrapolate is if you have both a ruling class and a lower class, which aren't godly. The middle average person that wants everything to be civil, and the person that's supposed to rise to competence naturally and supposed to competently in a system to where there's not obstacles there to prevent competent people from getting in power. The person that's supposed to be in power in the first place, which is you guys, it's you and me. With that happening, that person gets screwed over. We are not Joker. Neither are we that system. We're just a nameless character that died. A nameless person. No name. No face. But a label. A hated group. An oppressed group. With no power. Because Joker gang at least has power. They have numbers. They have masses. We don't. Do we? I don't really think so. Now, truly, it's not as bad as I made it out to be, and that's not because my description is inaccurate. It's just because we have God on our side. And some can argue maybe God is testing who will stay faithful, or we might be approaching revelations. But truly, with God, we can even defeat the most evil anarcho-tyranny system and the most evil communism, big government, which isn't what it is. It's not about big government. It's about replacing hierarchy. If we have that type of system, even that can be defeated by the Lord Savior. So we could really defeat these people. That doesn't mean we go out and battle them. No. It just means we get into institutions guided by Christ. And in order to do that, we must be fruitful and bear the fruits that God wants us to. And if we do, and we still don't get in power, then that means it's God's plan to approach Revelations. It's God's plan to approach the end to see who will be faithful or not. Because truly, God's not on the side of those evil people. As much as He loves all of us, He knows who He'll recognize to come to His kingdom and not come to His kingdom. But you know what, frankly? If we don't do better of accepting Him, if we don't do better of following Him blindly, not looking back to see how He's doing, if we don't do better, we probably won't receive the kingdom of heaven either. So many of us. And you know what all of us will get? As I say in the Joker, we'll get what we fucking deserve. It's true. It's true. And if we lose this fight and we lose this country, if we allow ourselves to be run by these people that are frankly pretty weak, let's be honest, these people are frankly pretty weak. If we allow ourselves to get ruled by these weak, mentally ill, corrupt people, well, we get what we deserve, which is getting our everything we love taken away. Because frankly, we just must not be as competent as we seem, or as godly as we seem. If we lose that battle, there's no reason you should lose that battle unless it's God's plan, of which there would be the exception. But more rather, dealing in the predicament of most scenarios except for the revelationist scenario, truly, we can win this fight. It's not an ideological battle. It's a power battle. You know, the Joker was able to compete against the cops because they had an equal amount of weaponry. And this isn't to say that this is not to be as blunt as some may be extrapolating. It is more so an extrapolation that, you know, gun is power, and if people and everyone that has it and is good enough at using it can wield it correctly. So if enough people have that power, then it will go for their favor. But if as it does with like the Joker, but if enough competent people have power, then it'll work it out as it was intended. You know, the good guy with a gun can kill a bad guy with a gun, and a good guy with power can beat a bad guy with power. So the solution to this anarcho-tyranny system, as we talked about, it's not small government. It's not deregulation in the sense of we are going to allow corporations to do more because the corporations already control our every move. There is deregulation that needs to happen because most of our deregulation only affects small businesses and not big businesses because they can lobby around it. But in essence, the solution is not like the government size, is what I'm trying to emphasize here. Rather, it is who is running it. In essence, we have to take over institutions that were supposed to come to us naturally. We have to. We have to. Or we'll die. Seriously. And if we don't take care of if we don't get those powers to institution, at least we'll achieve the kingdom of heaven if we truly accept Christ. At least we have that fail state. You know, there's no reason to be black-pilled about it. We have nothing else to be more happy for. But we also got to be serious. Because Christ's mission for all of us, it's not very laid back. It's not laid back. Let me just grill. I'm just gonna sit here and I'm just gonna grill. All I have to do is pay low taxes and sit here in my own house. I can play some, I can just do whatever, chill out, live with my mother. Alright, you may have noticed some jump cuts this video, which isn't normal for me. I don't think I've ever had jump cuts in a video. No, I haven't. I haven't ever had jump cuts in a video. And it's not purposeful. It's because my phone, which I'm using to record, because, I'm oppressed, and that's why I don't have a camera. My phone, which I'm using to record, ran out of storage. You know what else is out of storage? Our nation. It is. Especially when our jobs are being taken away and displaced by a government that hates us, people that hate us, incompetent losers that hate us. Especially because of that, we can't have people taking our jobs or stuff because the transnational corporations, all they care about is money, and what benefits them is people that are willing to accept low labor and low paying jobs and won't demand higher jobs or higher pay. And the artisan, his job gets replaced by machinery as the system is able to displace the competence of the human. In essence, as the competence of the human becomes less valuable and becomes more self-sufficient in maintaining itself by having an infrastructure that keeps like the least competent person in power, in essence, you will have something that becomes nothing more than a world of money. It's true, especially in a godless society. That's what's happened to this nation, and it's what will happen unless we do something. And remember, if we let them stomp all over us, if we let these weak people stomp all over us, because we're too unwilling and too scared of weak people, we're too scared to be too confrontational or something, we're too scared, we don't want to test the muddy waters. If we let that happen, we'll get what we deserve.